For week 3 in RPSE 465, the topic of word recognition relates to beginning reading and early decoding skills. Word recognition refers to being able to look at a word and read it automatically. For example, a student might see the word spelled S-A-I-D and say, said. Word recognition can also include recognizing a word after having decoded in a sound-by-sound or syllable-by-syllable fashion. The term sight words is often used in discourse related to early reading and phonics. Generally, the term sight words refers to a high-frequency word that is difficult to read according to just its phoneme-grapheme connection. For example, said, was, done, could. Notice that when you read through the whole word could, C-O-U-L-D, it doesn't sound the way it looks. Historically, it was thought that words like could would become automatic to readers through rote memorization and visual memory alone. For skilled readers, virtually all words have become sight words. A sight word is any word that is recognized instantly and effortlessly by sight, whether it's spelled regularly or irregularly. Yep, teaching students to memorize high-frequency words holistically is not what we're after. The most powerful mechanism for eventually accessing words by sight is the use of graphophonemic structure, a process that fuses the word's units into memory. Words can be identified in different ways. KMI and CATS offer 5 different ways to build word recognition. One way is by having students identify and blend together the individual phonemes in words. On the slide is the Tap It, Map It, Graph It activity from the 50 Nifty Activities for 5 Components and 3 Tiers of Reading Instruction by Judith Dotson. This activity gives one example for how to help students identify and blend together the individual phonemes in words as a way to build word recognition. The second way to build word recognition is by having students notice and blend together familiar patterns. On the Wisconsin DPI website, there are activities and resources for introducing word families. That website is provided on the slide, and a screenshot illustrates how teachers might take words from their curriculum and build instruction around the patterns that appear in those words so that students can better recognize those common spelling patterns. The third way to build word recognition is to have students recognize words as whole units or read those words or parts of them by sight or by heart. There is still an amount of orthographic processing involved in recognizing words by sight, and we can teach students to read these words so that over time they become automatic. A fourth method for building word recognition is by making analogies to other words that are already known. One example is an activity called concentration. You can play this by using patterns that are known and patterns that are new. You can play this by introducing sounds that are known and sounds that are new. This activity comes from the Next Steps for Literacy Instruction book. The final way to build word recognition, according to KMI and CATS, is by using clues from context so that students can make a so-called guess about a word's identity. On this slide, the context comes from images that represent the word. The student would put in the middle of this semantic map would be cup. So we can look at pictures, we can look at surrounding words on the page to try to make the guess as to what that word's identity is. Word walls serve as a useful resource for students to maintain use of words that were introduced through methods of word recognition instruction. There is a difference between simply having a word wall and actually using the word wall. The Wisconsin DPI website has resources, one of which includes word wall applications for students in grades 6 through 12. In that link to the word wall exercises is on the slide here. Another example that you can of an activity you can use after having instructed students to recognize words and or built word walls or personal word walls with the words that you've taught could be to have students use their large muscles and a straight arm to write the word from the word wall in giant letters. This is sometimes referred to as skywriting. An add-on activity here may include having students do this with their eyes closed, or have them use a flashlight, a handheld flashlight, or a finger flashlight to write the word on the wall or the ceiling. Build It offers extra practice with word recognition. This entails having students use foam letters or letter tiles to build words. They can also use those letter tiles to swap out letters to make new words in an activity referred to as making words. On the slide is a template for using making words to have students work with a set of phonemes and graphemes they've already practiced. Start with tip, change one letter to make the word say tap, add one letter to make the word say tape, and so on. So far in the presentation, we've addressed word recognition activities, and now let's shift our focus to the process of systematic and explicit phonics instruction. We'll begin with a closer look at the phonics lesson. The phonics lesson outlines the process we use to systematically introduce new phoneme grapheme patterns through the My Turn Together Your Turn procedure and is driven by student assessment data. The main elements of a phonics lesson include sounds, targeted sounds for which the student has phonemic awareness, letter sound association, often using sound cards or flashcards with that grapheme to correspond with the targeted phoneme. It includes blending and word building, reading decodable text, and application of the targeted patterns in other contexts, maybe other texts, other font, other settings. When planning a phonics lesson, use assessment data to figure out in the scope and sequence of your phonics instruction where the best place to select your target phonemes is. I've linked on our class site and also put the URL on this slide, a phonics teacher's guidebook that outlines scope and sequence for the best pattern to introduce new patterns in your lessons as you're being systematic about the kinds of stimuli you're introducing. So this PDF is available freely online. Our course text offers a reasonable scope and sequence for phonics instruction, and the lecture notes handout to accompany week 3 also includes some screenshots from study materials for the Wisconsin Foundations of Reading, and in those materials we can see the recommended scope and sequence for beginning readers' phonics instruction. The lesson itself, the activities that you'll deliberately plan ahead of time, address 6 components. First, list 6 to 8 phonemes that you plan to drill. These would be more review, practice. They would help the student achieve the objective of the lesson that you're about to present. The main purpose of this drill is to build fluency and reinforce previously mastered sounds. Think through ahead of time how many seconds of wait time you'll provide when you hold up a card and what kind of feedback you'll give if the student doesn't know or says the wrong sound or letter. 2, use assessment data to make a decision about which previously introduced concepts to review. Choose 2 to review. Select your materials that you'll use. Plan out what you'll say and do. 3, use assessment data in the scope and sequence of phonics curriculum to make a decision about which new concepts to introduce. List out those new concepts. Think through which material you'll use. And what specifically will you say and do to introduce the new concept? Then in your plan, step 4 is to list out the activities and materials you'll use during guided practice of the my turn, together, your turn model. This is the together, practicing and reinforcing what you've modeled. Okay. So think through and plan out the type of feedback that you'll provide, and then identify a system that you'll use to gradually release responsibility so that you can shift from the my turn together to the your turn or independent practice phase of the lesson. Step 5 is describe the procedure that you will use to evaluate the student's progress. The final step is write or select connected text so that the student can apply the new concept while reading for meaning. It may be ambitious to write text if you're using a very small set of stimuli, like only short A's, CVC words. It may be easy to develop that. I will link on our Canvas site resources that you might pull from so that you can select connected text that would apply for step 6. End this recording with 3 practice questions for the W-Forts. 1, a first grade teacher can most effectively support first graders' development of rapid automatic word recognition by first teaching students how to A, apply consistent phonics generalizations in common words, B, use context to determine the meanings of the words, C, identify the constituent parts of multi-syllable words, or D, look up unfamiliar words in the dictionary. This is a first grade teacher supporting first grade students, and our concept here is rapid automatic word recognition. So think through answer choices that you can eliminate and then try to isolate from the remaining which one addresses automatic word recognition. Second question, which of the following best describes the relationship between word decoding and reading comprehension in a beginning reader's development? A, decoding skills and reading comprehension skills tend to develop independently of one another. B, reading comprehension skills directly facilitate the development of decoding skills. C, development of decoding skills is secondary to the development of reading fluency and reading comprehension skills. Or D, rapid automatic decoding skills help facilitate development of reading fluency and reading comprehension. Final question, when learning letter sound correspondence, beginning readers are most likely to require the most instruction in decoding which of the following? So think of the scope and sequence or progression in the phonics curriculum. Which one would require the most instruction? A, ship, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant. B, dime, consonant, vowel, consonant, silent E. C, hot, consonant, vowel, consonant. Or D, best, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. When we have our next meeting, we'll debrief on answers to these final 3 questions.